By now, most people are aware of a local family in Las Vegas coming face to face with what they believe were 100% not human. We are talking about 8 to 10 foot tall entities, which apparently landed in the backyard of their Las Vegas home, and which prompted them to call the police. They were described as towering, nearly 10 feet tall, alien looking, big shiny eyes. That's the 911 call that police received. And since then, things have gotten even weirder. News stations have reported on the event. It has gathered the attention of ufologists worldwide. And given the time, there is a lot going on. We recently had a mass UFO sighting with footage caught in Northwest Vegas as well. I got the individual who gathered the best video footage of that particular Vegas mass sighting onto the podcast. And although people around the valley got great footage, Scott's was out of control. I recommend you listen to the podcast with Scott. This is a similar situation, a nearby location, same part of the general vicinity of Las Vegas. And today, we are going to have the investigator who, in my opinion, has delved deepest down the rabbit hole of this alien, extraterrestrial-looking sighting, an event which has everyone's attention right now. We have Erik, the Awakening Man. He's delved way into the rabbit hole and has information which is unfathomable. We're going to get into all that and a lot more. But really quick, if you have not subscribed to Hero Paranormal on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and share the podcast on YouTube. Although I will most likely never be monetized on YouTube for a variety of reasons, by liking, subscribing, and sharing the podcast, that will enable me to break through the algorithm of control, and at least some people will be able to hear and be aware of the topics covered. Also, please follow Hero Paranormal on social media, on Instagram and Facebook. And most importantly, if you haven't been to heroparanormal.com, please stop by and check that out. Don't be scared by the pop-up. That just allows you to subscribe as a patron. For less than the price of a cup of coffee a month, you get the entire array of content behind the paywall, the whole enchilada. You can also access that at patreon.com and search for Hero Paranormal. All right, let's get to it. Buckle up for a strange ride into 8 to 10 foot tall creatures walking around a Las Vegas family's backyard. Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Evazine. Blast off, blast off, blast off, blast off. Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Evazine. Blast off, blast off, blast off, blast off. Erik, the Awakening Man, welcome to the Hero Paranormal Podcast.
Ryan, good to talk to you again. We've been talking all morning, and man, it's hot again. It's hot again. It's summertime, and it's already hot, buddy. I mean, I don't get excited very often. Maybe a handful of stories that have come down the pipe, and this story we're going to talk about today, I'm getting goosebumps right now because I believe 99.9%, because I wasn't there. If I was actually there, I'd go 100%, but I'm 99.9% that what we're going to talk about today is a real story that really happened. And we may never know all the facts that we could present to the public that would substantiate or verify our beliefs, but no one's going to convince me that nothing didn't happen there.
And that's what I love about you. I think you've delved the deepest down this rabbit hole so far. I mean, I know that this has the world ablaze with curiosity right now, but you're always exploring great new stories and places where they take place. And you are literally backtracking this entire event and following it, so to speak, from the beginning, because there is a lot to explore here. Where should we kick off?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about a lot, and you and I both know that there's still a lot more to learn. So this may be a part one. People that listen to this are going to probably go, well, you guys aren't really telling me enough yet to really bite onto this completely, but we'll have more. But we're gonna lay what we got on the table right now. Let's start with okay. So obviously, what we're talking about here was breaking news here just within the last few days. Some people think that something crashed in Vegas. Some people think, who I believe know really the truth, that it didn't crash, it landed. So I don't have evidence, physical evidence to prove one or the other, but it's my belief that an object landed in that backyard in Las Vegas. And what's interesting is this happened around 11:30 on April 29th. The police were called. All that is out there on the media. The family's got the son, Angel, 18 years old, has got set up a YouTube page, put out a little 8-minute video. There's of course George Knapp, Channel 8, Doug Papa, who's on Twitter, also on Facebook. He's got his own podcast and YouTube channel. I'm not sure exactly how he found the story, but he was the one to get the story first. He broke the story, did several reports about it on his show, and he's done the boots on the ground legwork. But of course, as usual, media gets a hold of a story, and then they want to slant it however it is they want to slant it. And so I haven't had a chance to talk to Doug yet. So by the time we have another conversation about this, we'll have even more information, because until I can actually sit down with Doug and tell him what I've learned, hear what he's learned, then maybe we could put this puzzle together a little better.
Okay, Eric. So on the police body cam footage, it shows a date of May 1st, 2023. As we know, oftentimes with cases such as this one, there's been enough time that's lapsed for things to be cleaned up, so to speak. I've seen, and you've seen, a lot of evidence online that this occurred on the 29th. What do you think has happened here? Do you think this is a case where there's been enough time that's passed that some things may have been manipulated at this point?
Oh, absolutely. It's now, as far as the body cam footage, I haven't really got to dive deeply into, if the body cam footage was filmed, let's say after the call, like an hour or two after the Angel and his family called the police at 11:30 on the 911, then we were trying to put this puzzle together. But in the meantime, I have done some research. And I am aware that there were some meteors showers going on during that time frame. So it's possible, I almost would lean towards likely, that big ball of light that was streaking through the sky that was captured on the body cam was more likely a meteor and not this object that landed in the backyard of this home. But, I mean, we don't know yet. So there's still more work to be done on that. So that's where I'm at with that right now.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal, because it was bright enough that the body cam footage saw it. In fact, enough that the officer said, my buddy just saw something land or come down in that area. And it sort of made them a little weary about going to the location after seeing something fall from the sky, hearing the boom, for lack of a better word, in the backyard or in the neighborhood. And let's get to the actual entities themselves, which, we're talking 8 to 10 feet tall, large, shiny eyes, by all accounts, not human. And where I think it gets very strange from a very real perspective is these entities did not act in the usual way that they normally act in these scenarios. They were they were kind of worried, it seemed. One apparently got into a front-end loader or a forklift in the backyard and tried to turn it on. They knew they were in trouble being where they were. And again, the description, 10 feet tall, muscular, green, tan, cold skin colored, neon eyes, naked looking. And the family was scared to death. What do you make of that? Do you think that there's any embellishment, or do you think these people are being 100% accurate?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think Angel said it was skinny, but I don't know if you heard muscular. Again, we're just kind of just shooting from the hip right now with what we know. So some of the information we're going to talk about today, we're going to fine tune it if we're making. In other words, we need to verify some things. But what I believe, I'll tell you why. I at first when I saw the story, the first thing I tweeted after just an initial glance at it was that I'm not buying this story. That was my first impression. And I thought about that. I thought, well, it just didn't add up. I mean, it's just too fantastical. All right, but I know better as a researcher that okay, before I just turn my back on this and just move on, or talk trash about the story, I'm going to make some phone calls. So I made a call to one of my sources, and I said, hey, have you heard about this story? And he said, yeah. And I says, well, what can you share with me? And we'll talk about that in this conversation today. But it was as a result of that conversation that lasted about 40 minutes that suddenly I was no longer did I believe that it was a hoax or what. I did basically a 180. I mean, I immediately tweeted. I changed my mind. I'm all in on this story because my sources, I trust, and they're very good sources. Okay, and I'm not saying this as to like brag or to try to boast. Personally, I don't really care about getting any credit on this. I'm just trying to find the truth and share it with you and the people that are out there that listen to this. I don't want any kind of rewards or a pat on the back or attaboy or anything. I don't care about that. I believe that we have been visited, that we're still being visited. Maybe we're not even being visited. Maybe they're here. Maybe they live in the mountains of Mount Whitney and they like to take cruises occasionally. I'm being silly right now, but I'm just saying, and as far as crash retrievals go and vehicles that have either landed, been given to us, crashed, however you want to describe that, I'm all in on that, 100%. I've done not just research that you would find on YouTube or the internet or some book or some guy that I run into a conference. I've got excellent sources that get real information, not hearsay and opinion. So I do believe that we've had crash retrievals. I do believe that we've got bodies. Whether they're alive, I don't think so, but I don't know. Where they're being stored, I don't know. I can speculate, but I'm not here to speculate. So I'm all in on this on the reality that this has happened before. I mean, it happened in Brazil, in Varginha. James Fox did an excellent documentary about a vehicle that crashed out there, and then the bodies, and then not the bodies, the creatures, and the whole 9 yards. So, I mean, I believe that story. So some people want to deny it, but I don't think it's there's just too much evidence there. I mean, there's no way it could be a conspiracy where all those people got together from all these different agencies. And anyway, I'm going on and on and on about that. So what this story reminds me of, this Vegas story, is kind of similar in some ways to the Brazil story. Different, but similar. So I believe it's possible. So anyway, I do think. Now look it's easy to think that it crashed. I don't think it crashed. I think it landed. Okay, and I think at first when I saw the circle, a picture was taken at 1:47 a.m. of the circle in the backyard, I thought, this doesn't make sense. I mean, the thing crashed and it's just a circle? That doesn't add up. Well, I don't think it crashed. I think it landed, and that's what that circle is. And I also think, we'll go back to what happened during the time that it was on the ground, but I think that somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 25 minutes between the time that thing landed and these creatures got out of the spaceship, we'll call it a spaceship, and were on the property, that this thing lifted off and took off. So, and I'm just going to say it right now, I've got access to radar information, and this thing was tracked on radar. So, that's what it is. So let's go from there.
I'm I'm down, and I'm so glad that you mentioned the James Fox scenario and case from Brazil, because many in the field have related that scenario as possibly being demonic. Now, the descriptions were very similar, and 100% they were big eyes, big mouth, intimidating, and I don't think it's wrong to call it a spaceship. The dimensions are correct. You can see that it left a mark, and it landed, in my opinion, as well, because it landed exactly in the middle of the yard. I think if this would have been a crash scenario, there's no telling where it would have landed. And the witnesses all pretty much agree, this is not BS. They all of the interviews line up. Now, this brings me to the next case, which I think is very important, which is the body cam footage of the police would not allow anyone to see video beyond the property limits, which I have to sort of call BS on, because we all watch cops on TV and they go from yard to yard, jumping fence lines. They don't seem to care about your personal private property when it comes to getting these footage segments. Yet in this case, there is absolutely zero that is witnessed from the backyard. Do you think there is a reason for this, Erik?
Yeah, I mean, another thing, going back to James Fox again, I'm on Twitter. I'm following what people are saying, and James Fox tweeted yesterday, which he normally doesn't do this. James Fox is not a tweeter kind of guy that's out there, gets involved in these stories and communicates about them with people on Twitter. That's not what he does. He's a professional filmmaker. He's out there working. He don't have time to be playing games on Twitter. But he said that he's getting calls that the FBI, and this is quote, that the FBI is got a hold of the police and they're scrubbing these body cam videos. So this is the call that he gets. Now, I don't have evidence that that's what happened, and I don't have evidence that James Fox is telling the truth. Personally, I think in my book, James Fox is a highly credible researcher, filmmaker. There's no reason for him to just jump on Twitter and make up a story. He doesn't need that fame. He doesn't need that baggage. He's doing quite well on his own without jumping in those. So I tend to believe that story. So and then part two to why I believe the story is my source says. Well, we're going to kind of skip forward and we'll go back to the event in the backyard. But my source says that the very next morning after the event, we'll just call them agents. Okay, I'm not going to say what type of agents. Two agents went to the house where the event occurred. The boy Angel was not home, apparently. So they interviewed the father and the brother and the son, or the brother of Angel. And as a result of that, from there, I don't know exactly what the conversation was. Now, of course, I don't have the details of that, but apparently I was told through, I'm trying to word this in such a way I don't get anybody in trouble here, that when the agents went back to the base, another agent in conversation with these agents that did the investigation relayed to my source that when they left the house after interviewing the father, going towards their vehicle to get in the vehicle and head back to the base, the neighbors, I believe it was a woman and her daughter, came across the street the agents were under the impression that the lady and the daughter thought that they were police officers. So they assumed that these guys were police officers, so they wanted to share what they saw with these agents, thinking that they were police officers. So they tell the agents that we saw it. We saw the creatures. But at first we didn't know they were creatures. We didn't know what they were. We thought it was the kids across the street playing on stilts. So now going back to the Brazil incident, those creatures over there were smaller creatures. These creatures, according to Angel, were 8 to 10 feet tall. These are very large creatures. The lady says that she saw them from across the street. Now, I know we're kind of skipping around here, but one of the boots on the ground researchers, another source of mine, was able to go and talk to these people. And apparently, since the event, nobody's really talking anymore. And so this reeks of Men in Black cover-up kind of stories where, you're not to discuss this with anybody kind of, that's the vibe I'm getting right now. And to me, so this happened on the 29th. Here we are, June 8th or 9th, whatever today is, and the story just kind of broke here recently. So basically almost a whole month or 3 weeks went by before we even heard about the story. So, and now this is a theory that I have. I don't have factual evidence to prove this. I might get evidence at some point, but I think that this thing was scrubbed. And I'm pretty confident, although I hope I'm wrong, that we may never know the whole truth about this story.
Such good points. And the scrubbing seems very evident. I also reached out to George Knapp, and he validated and has said that the family members saw men in dark sunglasses with government plates. This was the last conversations before, as you said, many people have been reaching out and they have since gone silent. Now, not to get too far off on a tangent of the timeline and these things possibly looking somewhat demonic. However, that this all took place depending on when, it really doesn't matter because we have Walpurgis Night, which as many know, May 1st is Beltane, and Walpurgis Night is April 30th to May 1st, a very small timeline, a very small window, where it is said in mythology that demons sometimes make their presence known, and also it is the night when it is said that witches come out and make their presence known. So I think it's interesting that this took place, and there's a lot of argument about when it took place, but as near as we can tell, this was from April 30th, more or less, to May 1st, if I'm not mistaken, possibly even the 29th, when it originated from its original destination. So, this is supposed to be Satan's lost hurrah before the dawn of May, which, if you want to get into the roots of the occult and the timeline of the actual calendar day, it happened right there, I believe 1150 to... I
think it was 11:57 or when the call came in, or 11:58 if I'm not mistaken, or 11. It might have been, no, excuse me, my bad. 11:30, 11:28, 11:30 something. It was right around 11:30ish.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it's right there. I mean, it is right there.
Yeah, you're bringing something up that is an interesting theory, but there are synchronicities and coincidences that you can't just discount off the top. I mean,
no.
That's something that's got to be part of the equation to consider as to what again, we'll probably never be able to prove anything that we're discussing right now, but we're having a conversation about an event that I believe happened 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's going to be people out there that are going to, there's always a handful of people out there that are going to, that for whatever reason they just want to be, they just want to be debunkers. Most debunkers, matter of fact, almost all debunkers really are not researchers. They don't do any actual. They think they're doing research when they go on the internet. That's to them, that's research. That's not research. Research is when you have contacts, sources, and methods. When you go there, you talk to people. You go boots on the ground. You travel. You talk. That's research. So I get a little frustrated with these people out there that you watch a video and see this, and they've looked at it maybe 10% of the information, and then now they're just flipping off at the mouth about, oh, this is this, and it was a meteor, and it was this, and this kid's hoaxing. I mean, I'm just so tired of those people, because really the kind of work that you and I are doing and others that are actually spending their time trying to figure this phenomena out, it kind of makes it more difficult for us. And I think for them, it's more of an ego trip, maybe. I don't really actually think they're that stupid. I think it's kind of, I just want attention. And since I don't have the time to be an actual researcher, I'm just going to be a debunker, because anybody can be a debunker. I mean, it's not, you don't even have to have any credentials or credibility. You don't even have to be smart. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I have issue with those people.
I agree. And I argue that, the more, when you do the real research, it becomes more intriguing. And as you said, the puzzle pieces start to actually form an image of what took place, where that doesn't happen in a case where it's easily debunked. And there was a recent Vegas mass sighting of a UFO where multiple people across the valley got footage, saw the craft materialize and dematerialize. And I was lucky enough to have Scott, who, in my opinion, got the best footage of it and was also nearest. So it wasn't, he was closest. It was easy to get the best footage. But he described what he saw that night, and his footage is what actually made it to Coast AM. And he seems to think that there was something about this area of the valley or Las Vegas that made this location easier to see the craft. And we have a very similar situation with this particular event. And I think it's interesting because we have former Air Force officials, two of which are Tommy Bland and Nelson Pacheco, who believe fallen angels have taken on the appearance of extraterrestrials. And then we also have recently the notification that top aerospace scientists suspect UFOs are biblical time machines. These are all very strange things for government officials to say when it's basically been kind of the status quo for so long. I mean, this time in general, the last couple of months have been groundbreaking for UAPs and UFOs. What are your thoughts about the timing of this? I mean, it just seems hot.
Oh yeah, it's I was trying to lay low, to be quite honest with you. I was I was up at your place last month, and I've been trying to kind of just take a break, because it's exhausting to do this, and the thing is, it's like you're in a haystack looking for a needle, and when you go into the haystack, chances are you're not going to find the needle. You just already know that, but there's a needle in there somewhere. At least you highly suspect there's a needle in that haystack. So if you've got the time and the energy and the determination, you'll just start looking for it. And in this particular story, I think there's a needle in the haystack, and I think we found it. Now, I don't know if we're going to be able to prove that needle got there by aliens, but there's certainly a needle in the haystack. But let's go back to how this all started. So according to my source about, I'm not going to name all the information about all that, but I'm just going to say this, that it was sighted. There was an object that same night earlier, before 11:30. I don't know how much earlier, but around the time frame, just before it landed in Las Vegas, an object was sighted by eye and tracked by radar coming from the Bishop, California area, which is Eastern California. And then when you go from there towards Vegas, okay, we're talking just a few hour drive, more or less. If you're going towards the Utah-Vegas border, okay, there's a town called Mesquite. This object, I'm told, was tracked going towards Mesquite. It got to the area where, right on the border there of Utah and Nevada, and it turned around. After it turned around, I'm told that it literally went right across or over Nellis Air Force Base. Now, think about this for a second. Let's just say that that's true, okay? And they're tracking this thing. And I believe that we have technology that if we want to bring something like this down, we could. Now, I'm not suggesting that this thing was shot down at any point. I don't know. But I'm telling you that I believe that they knew that this thing was in the sky, moving across Nevada, and it went to that house over there, and I'm not going to give the address, even though I have it, in Las Vegas, and it landed. So why did it land there? What do you think? Why there? What would you guess? Why would you guess that it would land there of all places?
The location looks ideal for a short-term fix. It's a very well-organized backyard, and if I was having engine trouble or I needed a place to put things down that seemed to be occulted from all the rest of the surroundings, that's where I would put something down.
You know, and you live there. You live in Vegas. I'm not going to say where you live, but I know that your house is, I mean, I could probably go from where that thing landed to your house in probably 5 or 10 minutes. Right?
It's in the same general vicinity of the valley.
Yeah. So when I first, when George Knapp put out his report, I think it was last night on Channel 8 News, it was the first time that I had seen during the video report screenshots from Google Earth of the house, of the street, of the area. But of course, no street signs, no mention of the street, no mention of the area. We just know that it was in Las Vegas. So I called you this morning, and I'm contacting even my sources don't know the address yet at this point this morning. They were working on trying to get the address for me. So I was impatient. So I called you and I said, this is where I'm told that this thing happened. And then I think it was Sunny Hills or something like that, or Sunny Valley or Spring Valley. Is it called Spring Valley or Spring Hills?
Yeah, Spring Valley, correct.
Spring Valley. So I was told that it was in the Spring Valley area. So I went on Google Earth, and I'm literally going like block by block, trying to find any kind of clue of where this might have been. And then I called you, and you said, no, it's not there. It's over here. So I'm not going to say it on our show right now.
No, and that leads to the deception. We're finding this over and over again. But please go on.
Yeah. So it seems like, there's some diversion going on here, no doubt. I mean, it could have been a meteor or a crash. They don't want to say it landed. They don't want to say where it happened. They just want to give us, they can't totally lie because then it looks like they're lying. I shouldn't say that anybody's lying, but this is how cover-ups work. So anyway, so I did, based on the clue that you gave me, I went back on Google Earth. And I started scrolling that area, and there's a specific clue in those pictures that were on the George Knapp video that made it kind of easy for me to find. Okay, it took me about 5 minutes. Once I scanned that area, I found the house, and then I had to figure out what street that was on. And the information you gave me helped greatly, so I was able to take that information. I found the house. I figured out the address,
that's real research. Right? That's real research right there. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
So I mean, and I talked to my other friend about this, who's retired. He's not really a source, but he's a confidant that I can go to with information to try to verify and vet. He's kind of my conscience. He's like, well, hold on, before you jump to any conclusions. He's like, did you do this? Did you look at this? And I mean, he's not really a skeptic, but he's the guy that's just making sure that I cross the T's and dot the I's as I'm going down this path here, that I don't get ahead of myself. He says, don't just put out what you want to believe, put out what you learn, and let people decide for themselves what they want to believe. And that's what I'm trying to do here. Although I have my beliefs, I'm not trying to convince anybody right now that this is what happened, but I believe it is what happened. So anyway, so we got the house. I'm not going to go knock on the door. Okay, I'm not going to do that. You and I have discussed, what we're going to do what we can to see if we can establish some sort of communication through our channels, and there needs to be follow-up on this. I don't know how easy that follow-up's going to be, and that's where the hard work's coming in. I mean, what I've been doing so far, it's taken a lot of time, but it's not really hard work. The hard work is when I get to Vegas, and then we really try to dig up and see what we can find that's above and beyond what we know right now. So anyway, so that's where I'm at with that.
And I mean, I know it's going to sound weird, but some people like you and I like living in reality and going in, looking the situation in, on site, and you are headed to Vegas. We are going to walk through and look at this, literally in our own backyard, so to speak. But it's important to also mention the synchronicities And I won't go into them, but you mentioned the flight trajectories that had been tracked where this purported UAP was said to have directed or landed later on. And what's odd is this was a location that not only is it off the beaten path, not only is it somewhere I would never go, but it is somewhere I was planning on going Monday anyway. And this is the type of strange stuff that happens right under our noses, right in front of us when it comes to UAP, this kind of cosmic mystery that is impossible. My first reaction was like, you got to be kidding me. There's no way. When you said, and I'm not going to repeat, but when you said what you said, I just, in my mind, was thinking, this is impossible. This could not happen. I'm going there Monday. Wanna come. And that's how research works. I mean, when you care more about the people that are doing the research than in, as you said, the belief or what you want to propagate online, it literally stands out in front of you. The truth is more easily available.
Yeah. All right, so let's go back to the event. So,
yeah.
We're gonna, I don't have all my notes.
Let's get to the backyard, man. I mean,
Let's get to the backyard. So this is now. I have very close friends that are experiencers. Erik Mitchell. Mm-hmm. There is no experiencer that I've met or spoken with or spent time with or lived with and traveled with that has more credibility than Erik Mitchell. I'm not saying that because he's my friend or I'm trying to boast about knowing Erik Mitchell. He had an experience in 2013, multiple witnesses. The experiences continued, multiple witnesses. He was unfortunately, he won't say this publicly, I don't think, but I know that based on what he described happened to him as a result of the experiences, they wanted to shut that down. In 2013, they weren't ready for disclosure yet. That a few years later, when they started that ball. But in the meantime,
oh well, we lost you here. Let me see if I can get you back.
I can hear you. Do you hear me?
Okay, you're back. Yeah, sorry. If you could just repeat that. That was the strangest. It started gurgling and it just cut out.
Okay, can you hear me okay now?
Yep, you sound good.
All right, I'll go back. So,
just the last part about how they tried to shut this down with Erik Mitchell.
Oh yeah. So I'm being careful how I say this. It's been reported that, I could say the name, but I'm not going to say the name. But this particular person has actually even admitted it very, very off the cuff in an interview that I watched earlier this year. That they, whoever they are, now whether this is some rogue agency that's been hired by some unknown intelligence agency. Now I know people love to blame the CIA, okay, but trust me, there's so many agencies out there in intelligence. I mean, John Ramirez did a presentation not too long ago, and it's like a pyramid, and most people have no clue how much intelligence agencies are out there involved in things. But of course, the CIA always gets blamed. But in this particular, I don't know who hired these people, who trained these people, or who they answer to. But there are people out there. I don't know about right now today, but certainly in 2013, that if they want to shut somebody up or they want to intimidate somebody, that's a reality that occurred, and it's occurred more than once with more than one person. These people, this is what kind of keeps the experiencers, off. You don't see too many people on radio interviews or on Twitter Spaces talking about this stuff because they're afraid, and I get it. This kind of goes towards what we're talking about right now with this object that landed in the backyard and these two tall creatures that are, we know at least one. I'm hearing there were two, but I don't know. But at least one of them was seen, maybe two. And now all of a sudden the family's not talking, and the kid's not talking, and George Knapp can't get an interview. And Doug Papa, who broke the story, suddenly now he's having trouble. It appears to furthering the communication. Although he was the only one that I know of that actually got to interview Angel, the 18-year-old, and that's on his YouTube channel, Doug Papa. But since that time, these people are silent. So I really think that somebody got to them. And, these people can be very intimidating, and these are real people. This is not just some hoaxing, conversation to try to scam or intimidate people. This stuff really goes on. Most people have a hard time believing that, but that's how this sort of stuff gets hidden or covered up.
I'm really glad that you bring this up, Erik, because as you're aware, Scott caught something right around this same time frame. Given the dates and the time frame and the window that we're talking about, this same individual who is located nearby and has, I won't give away where he lives, but he is uniquely positioned where if he goes out on his balcony, he can literally see this exact area we're talking about. And he filmed something that he sent to me, which blew me away. His wife is more of the online, or I'm sorry, his partner, his girlfriend, I believe it is. I don't want to mess that up. It's one of those. She was able to basically go online, see other people corroborating the evidence that he filmed. And in real time, she was able to see these things pull down off the internet. Oh man, lost him again. Man, this never happens when I'm talking to him.
Never. As a matter of fact, and I'm not one to like to try to jump on radio shows and do interviews because I like to keep a low profile.
Yeah.
Never had this problem. Again, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist and saying, oh, they're listening to our conversation and we're getting cut off on purpose. I mean, who knows? I doubt it, but that could be. But the point is this is another synchronicity. You know what I mean? Just weird that it's happening now when we're talking about this. But where were we? I apologize.
Basically their ability to clean things up, to scrub, to disinform. And I was just mentioning Scott got some footage right around the same time. His girlfriend, wife, or partner, I can't remember which, went online, saw other people who were in real time commenting that they also saw something. When she went to respond, she started to notice that the internet, literally right in front of her, these comments were being removed. The sightings posts were being taken down. And so they reached out to me and they sent me the footage. We need to analyze this footage in comparison to what has landed in this backyard because it is the same time frame, so to speak. And I just think that the belief that people don't see these things or that they don't believe it can be cleaned up, it's just easy to take that debunker skeptic stance. I've seen too much in my own life, and I know you have as well, to believe that this stuff doesn't happen.
Exactly. And I get it. I mean, I get that there's hoaxes out there. And you know what? There's probably more. I'm willing to say this. There's probably more BS out there than there is truth. Mm-hmm. I get that. But what I don't really appreciate is if you took 10 incidents that occurred, let's just say, and let's say 8 of them were BS and 2 were legit. You're going to always have that guy or that girl. Typically, it's the guys because the guys tend to have more their egos. Just they need to pretend like they know everything. They're going to debunk every one of them, whether it's a proper debunking or not. They're going to give it their best shot. And the reality is a debunker can be right 80 or 90% of the time, but they're going to be wrong 10 or 20% of the time. But in their mind, they're never wrong. So what you and I are trying to do is to find that 10 or 20%. I'm just using that as an example of what's true. We're trying to sift through the BS to find what's real and what's not. Now, I wouldn't even bother talking to you about this or wasting my time in some sort of interview that we're doing right now if I wasn't all in on this. I'm not. That's not my nature. I don't need the attention. I don't want the attention. But to me, this is a real story.
There are too many, in my opinion, I have to agree with you. There's too many synchronicities, coincidences, and pieces of the puzzle which seem to align around the overall image of what took place that night for there not to be something there. Oftentimes, you'll get a wild claim, no evidence to support it. Here it's the exact opposite. You have the evidence to support it. Only problem is the majority of this evidence has been scrubbed or is being ignored by a huge faction of I mean, why wasn't this reported the next day, the same week even? Why 30 days later? We're talking a month. Yeah.
It's very suspicious. So yeah, and here's the deal. I understand the reality of this. We may not find the smoking gun. I'm going to try to find the smoking gun. I'm going to try to find it. And I understand that I may not find it. But whatever I can find, whatever you could find, whatever I can find through my sources, we're going to put it all out there and let the people decide for themselves what they think happened. But right now, there's not enough information to people to analyze this story to make an intelligent decision. And so we're trying to find the intelligent facts about the incident and present it to your audience and to the people that are going to listen, so that they can discern for themselves what they think might have happened. And so that's kind of my way of being the fighter for the experiencers, the people that are out there that have had these experiences that have to suffer in silence. I'm kind of like that guy. I'm that guy that's trying to say, hey, man, don't talk trash about these people. Don't turn your back on these people. Don't laugh at these people, because many of them are telling the truth. And I have deep empathy and compassion for those people.
And I think it's important to mention that some in the actual government themselves are starting to come forward. I mean, on Monday, the former intelligence official David Grosh had said that the government has a covert program focused on recovering debris from crashed, non-human origin spacecraft and is attempting to reverse engineer the technology. What are your thoughts of these government whistleblowers coming out and starting to spread some truth?
I think it's beautiful. It could turn out to be a snowball. I mean, obviously, Lou Elizondo and the TTSA people kind of got the ball rolling. You got Tom DeLonge initially. I'm not really impressed with what happened with TTSA. As a matter of fact, looking back, I think the way that was all handled and how it evolved after it was announced has actually done more to discredit those people than to boost them up into a standing of, okay, well, hey, let's listen to these people. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. However that was handled, I don't think it was handled very well. But then, of course, Lou Elizondo, whether he was paid or not, or he was doing it out of the goodness of his heart, I don't know. I don't really care. All I know is he was doing every frickin' radio show on planet Earth that I can possibly think of, putting the message out there, putting the word out there, taking the questions, there's people out there that think, that have negative feelings about him. There's some that love this guy. I don't know the man. I'm neutral. Okay. I'm neutral, but I do believe that a lot of what he says, if not all of what he says, I believe is truthful. Now, I don't know if there's an agenda behind this, or if we're being set up for something. I know that Greer talked about it. I know that Carol Rosen, who worked with Wouter von Braun, has mentioned many times in the past that she was warned that one day their final card will be the fake alien invasion, right? And I've even talked to somebody, another one of my sources, who I asked him one time. I says, what do you think about this fake alien invasion? Is this just BS, or could this happen? And he says, well, I could tell you this. They have trained for it on 2 occasions. And the last time that, apparently, according to what he said, that there was a training for it was in 2000 or 2001 or somewhere in that time frame. But to his knowledge, there has been no training for any kind of an event like that since then. So it's possible that at one point, the people that were trying to, if this really was something that was on the table, a fake alien invasion, that they were trying to build a narrative that would allow them to pull that off. And at some point, for whatever reason, they took it off the table. Okay, that's possible. Or it could be, now that you've got John Ramirez out there and others talking, like we just talked about Grush, I don't know how you pronounce the last name exactly.
Yeah.
And Lou, of course, Lou Elizondo and many others. I mean, they're testifying up there in Congress, in closed doors, and we don't know the result of that. Now we got Aero involved and NASA, and they're going to do a report at the end of the summer. I've got John Ramirez telling me this weekend at Contact in the Desert, sitting down at a table. I'm saying, are more whistleblowers going to come forward? He says he believes so, but not till after disclosure. And I said, what do you mean after disclosure? I said, are you talking about like 26, 27, when you suggested that we're going to have, well, he didn't actually suggest, but kind of insinuated, and he kind of backpedaled, that there's some sort of event that or something that's going to be happening around 2027. I believe Chris Bledsoe also indicated, based on his contacts and his experiences, that he believes something around 26, 27. So there's a faction of people out there that are kind of on the heads up that something may be going down around 26, 27. So when I asked Ramirez, I said, are you talking about like disclosure, like you said, 26, 27? No, he says, no, I'm talking about at the end of the summer. I go, what do you mean at the end of the summer? I says, as you mean Aero and NASA and whoever is working with these people, there's going to be more information? He goes, yes, there's going to be more information that's going to come out. And then he says, once that information comes out, if the information, I'm kind of paraphrasing what he said right now, so don't quote me directly on this, but more or less what he said is there's more whistleblowers that are waiting. They want more people. In other words, it's going to be a snowball deal, I think. I think this guy's going to say this guy's going to say that, and then this guy suddenly is like, okay, fine, I'll go ahead and say what I got to say. Mm-hmm. So as soon as right now there's a leak in the dam. There's definitely a leak in the dam, and they're trying to keep it from flooding into the consciousness of humanity. And I think they're going to have a hard time with that. Now, at the same token, these same people that are testifying, that are trying to get as much information that's truthful information from their experiences, from their knowledge directly, not through hearsay, that we can make a change. Now, at the same time, they say that the government, we'll just call it the government, whoever you want to say is the government, whether it's the president or whoever, they're never going to do full disclosure. Some of these people, a lot of them believe that no matter what we do, we might move the needle substantially here in the next year or two. But they still under the impression that we're never actually going to see the bodies. We're never actually going to see the crash retrievals. We're never going to have direct, verifiable evidence. We're going to continue to get testimony and stories. So, in a court of law, it depends on the jury. There's a lot of people go to trial for murder. There's no evidence. There's no gun. There's no knife. There's no proof that the person was there. So you get all the testimony, and then the judge and the jury get to decide what they want to believe is true or not. And that's kind of where we're at with this. I mean, we may never get the smoking gun, but there may be enough testimony and other evidence that could come forward that would leave a reasonable person the impression that we are not alone.
And I think that reasonableness is, why you and I decided to respond to this so fully, because, it brings me back to the actual event. And in the video, the Metro Police body cam footage is blacked out, citing privacy laws. Now, I know for a fact, given one of my sources, that they did find footprints in the backyard. And one of the police officers was questioning passengers who were circling the area. And, they basically got very similar descriptions, that these things were big enough that they saw them over the fence. One witness described that they saw something fall out of the sky. They saw something 10 feet tall in the backyard. And, a lot of people have been using, this happened in a neighborhood. Why aren't they all over it? They were all over it. People did see this. Neighbors saw this, as you mentioned. The Metro Police inquiry that produced, quote unquote, no conclusive conclusions came back multiple times. And there's a reason they came back multiple times. There was physical evidence to this event. What happens, in your opinion, with this physical evidence that doesn't make it to our neck of the woods? Do you think this is shot up the ladder to higher intelligence?
Well, yeah. Okay, so there's, anybody that wants to research this is not like a secret, okay? There's various intelligence agencies. One, I'll just name one. Doesn't mean that they're the only one, but the Office of Special Investigations, as an example, they would gather. They could potentially do an investigation and a report. Let's just say that potentially that could be something that they could do. It's their job, whether it's aliens or something else. I mean, they're there for a purpose. And then that information goes up the ladder. Who it goes to exactly, I don't know exactly who it goes to. I could tell you this, some of my sources aren't even sure exactly where it ends up, but it ends up somewhere at the top of the pyramid. And you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I don't really think that the president, although the president is very important, obviously, I don't believe that he's the top of the pyramid when it comes to what we're talking about right now. I think there's other factions of people of power and control. John D'Souza calls them the elite powers in control, however you want to call these people, the nameless and the faceless for sure, okay, for good reason. But yeah, I mean, and these people are professionals. I mean, they've been doing this for a long time. They've got a system. The system is flawless. It's perfected. There's no kinks in their armor. There's no holes. So, I mean, you might get a guy here and there that might have been had access to this information or was a part of this system, but because they're all working in compartmentalized situations, no one person is ever going to have access to all the information. So, if a guy comes out and starts leaking information that you can't even verify, like this Dave Brush guy, a lot of what he says, I doubt he's going to be able to prove with any kind of documentation or physical evidence that what he's telling is the truth. Okay, I get that, and I understand that people can use that to be skeptical, and if that's what they want to do, that's their choice. But ultimately, let's get off that. But let's go back to the landing. So you got Angel back there. Okay, I guess he's with his brother. They're working on the car. They see this light comes down. I think he described it as he's seeing it kind of come down, reddish green colors, blue maybe. I forget the colors that he described seeing. And then when it came down to the ground, as it's actually getting to the ground, it became blurry. Now, that his eyes didn't become blurry, but the area around the object, he said it got dusty or it got misty or it got blurry, and then he saw red sparks. And then at that point, he said that he became kind of like frozen. I'm using my own words here. I don't think he used the word frozen. I don't remember. But, paralysis. His legs became heavy. He was like in a trance mode. I'm using that word trance as my word. I don't know if he said that, but this is how I imagine what he's trying to describe is he was just kind of frozen there and he couldn't run. So then when Mr. Papa interviewed him, that the Angel, as he's describing this to Mr. Papa, then from that point in the conversation, he jumps forward to, then I ran in the house. So I don't know if Mr. Papa was able to follow up with more questions, but we haven't heard the follow-up of, how long here's would be my questions, Angel. How long do you think you were there frozen before and then what did you see, and at what point did you recognize that you could then move? Because obviously at some point during that little experience that he was having, he snapped out of it or something happened where then he was able to move and run into the house. So at that point, I believe his brother saw the creature over there behind the forklift or whatever that thing was, and then he said, look over there. If I'm not mistaken, Angel, the boy looked over and he saw it. So I don't know how long if they locked eyes or again, there's still more to this story that we have not uncovered yet, but I just know that this is the basic gist of what he said. And then, I'm curious. So then Angel says he runs into the house. Did the brother stay out there or did the brother run in the house with him? I don't know. But then we do see video Okay, apparently, I'm assuming this was after the phone call, the 911 call. You see video of I believe it's Angel, his brother, and his dad, and you don't see the mother, but you hear the mother. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to assume for now, because I don't know who was doing the filming, but I'm thinking it was probably the mother that was videotaping the boy, her son, and the father walking back towards the back gate, towards the backyard where this creature was. And now it was in Spanish, so I took that clip and I sent it to you. It was about 14 or 15 seconds. And what was your interpretation of what she was saying at that time?
Now, they 100%, in my opinion, believed that they were in danger. Whoever was filming, the female voice, believed that they were in danger. The guys were sort of trying to, nut up, for lack of a better word, and get back there and see what's going on. But from the back, whoever was filming, again, a female voice, was more or less warning them against it, because even she could see these creatures or entities, and one of them appeared that it was about to move or cross from one part of the backyard to the other. There was movement. Like you said, the sound of the voice, it sounded very real to me. There was an 100% terror in her voice. Did not want them to get hurt. And in my opinion, yeah, it was crossing from one place to another in the backyard. It was on the move. She warned them against going back there, and I'm not so sure. You and I, we go directly at these things. I'm not so sure that you or I would have gone back there.
I don't think I would have. I mean, you could see them approaching that back gate that was open. They're almost like paws. They're not going to walk through that threshold. They're just on the house side of the gate, looking through, with the gate open, looking. Now there is a ring. They're calling it a ring camera. I don't know if that's something that's on the door. I heard a report that they've got a camera set up on the door because they're to keep an eye on the back property so that if there's any criminals or whatnot going. I mean, so they've got a little security system. So some type of security camera filmed something.
And they also had a camera in the backyard. And where it gets very interesting is they claim that camera, and I'm glad they claim this because this makes this more believable in my opinion. They claim that camera went down. That camera no longer functioned once this thing landed. And that goes along with, I mean, if these energies are able to take a biological organism such as Angel and his brother and literally put them on pause mode, and for lack of a better word, cloak themselves, then why would a electrified camera be that big of a stretch? And we run into this all the time, you and I, in investigations where equipment goes down and everybody says, oh yeah, sure, whatever, unlikely. Guess what? It happens. It starts to get blurry if you get any image at all. And I don't doubt for a minute what these people are saying is true. They said that camera in the backyard was a high-end camera and it went down. When this thing came into the yard, the camera was offline.
Now, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but there are some other researchers out there that have taken that footage and they broke it, the one where it shows what appears to be, now it's blurry, and the form of it, it's not beyond, in other words, what they are trying to claim, this is a video of the creature, is what they're trying to claim. It could be a video of the creature. There's not enough evidence in the video for me to say, oh yeah, that's definitely the creature, but when you look at what people have done with that video, it does appear from the right side that this creature kind of puts his head out, and you can see it, and it kind of moves forward just ever so little bit, right? And then it looks like it dips back in. So it could be that that lady saw that with her own eyes. And that's when she was thinking that the thing was going to come out from the right side and go across, like it was going to move across.
Yeah, it was planning a move.
Planning a move. And then it looks like it then, if it's true, if that really was the creature on the video, then it's possible that the creature recognized that, that it needs to just kind of move back into hiding. It appears as though that's what's happening. Now, my next question would be, if I were able to talk to the people, is at that point, did they actually go into the backyard, or did they just stop and not go into the backyard? Because I would think they probably didn't go into the backyard. But if they did go into the backyard, I want to hear that story. But I kind of doubt they did. I think at that point, the mother realized that there's something going on back there. I think that the kid and the father, they probably saw something. I personally, at that point, wouldn't go back there. There's no way. I would have backed up and either gone back into the house or stood back quite a distance, because it looks like in the video where they claim this creature is kind of popping its head out on the right-hand side, that wouldn't have been more than about 20 feet or 30 feet away from where these people were standing.
That's right. That's right. We're talking close. And
yeah, very close.
If these things are big enough, I mean, these guys did not seem scared at all to me. They were going to go in, and it was, when they realized that what she was telling them was actually occurring, they realized like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, this is not a good idea. And it brings me back to the camera going down. The fact, for all we know, and I'm theorizing here, for all we know, there's more on that particular camera than we are being told. However, I don't doubt for a minute that the camera went down for the majority of the, 20 minutes, 20 minutes or so?
Yeah. The question that I hope to be able to ask or find out, and I think we will find out, I'm pretty confident we will, is if any of the cameras or the phones or the footage or any of that was confiscated.
And that brings a really good point. That brings a really good point, because it's very easy to classify this as a matter of national security, given the bases nearby, the trajectory of the craft, and how it all took place with law enforcement.
Exactly. So yeah, this is a great, to me, it's a great story. Okay, here's what else I want to throw in there. I'm an older man. I've experienced many cultures. Okay, many cultures, whether it's Latino or Afro-American, Asian, Caucasian, I mean, all of them. I've had many experiences with many cultures. I have a good feel for culture. So it's my experience, and tell me what you think, it's my experience typically if you're in a Latino family, okay, you've got the whole family, they're very close-knit people, typically. And now we're in a neighborhood here. This is not like the ghetto of Compton here. We're talking about a middle to upper middle class neighborhood.
High end, yeah.
High end. I mean, I'm going low end by saying middle to upper middle. I'm trying to be conservative, but for sure, this property that these people live on has high end value because it's a huge property. It's not a tract home where you've got, one house here, and then your neighbor's like 10 feet away, and your other neighbor's 10 feet away, and you got a neighbor behind you and a neighbor in front of you. It's not set up like this. This is kind of in an area of town where these lots are huge, So these people, they have to have some success within their family, or they wouldn't own the property nor have all the vehicles and the equipment that they have back there. So these are credible people. These are not the kind of people that would have any need or reason or motive to do a hoax. They would all have to agree together. The mother, the father, the son, the other son, the neighbors on one side of the street, the neighbors on the other side of the street. They would all have to get together and create some story that they would all have to agree on to make this a hoax. And to me, to think that that's what these people did is completely ridiculous.
No way. No way, no how. And I agree with you 100%. These people are successful in what they do. They're obviously very credible. And as you mentioned, I mean, just in vehicles and equipment in this yard, there's a fortune. That's not even counting the high-end real estate we're talking about. Very well cared for home as well from the front. Everything about this screams legitimacy. And I find it very interesting that the police officer afterwards, they circled the block in their SUVs to ask people around the area what they saw, and all of it corroborated what took place. So it just goes to show that there's a lot more to this. Everybody saw something. It wasn't, I've seen a lot of people online say, oh, this is in the middle of a populated area. Where's the evidence? Nobody saw anything. No, they had multiple eyewitnesses. They took a majority of the evening taking down more eyewitness reports. And according to the investigation I did, they had 650 to 800 reports recently, not all around this particular event, but recently, 650 to 800 reports here in Las Vegas. And they said that only 2 to 5% of them, they get any evidence or any kind of inkling of what took place. So that'll give you an idea. Needle in a haystack is exactly right.
The two more points I want to bring up is, Angel described hearing the footprints all around him, moving very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also described, if I'm not mistaken, or somebody within the family described hearing footprints on the roof.
I did hear that. I heard that. That blew me away. And if you look at the type of ranch-style house they have, this is very possible for an entity or a creature that big to quickly and easily gain access to the rooftop. And it's very strange. Everything points to them being there and doing something. I believe that there was some kind of, I don't know, something took place in that yard that night. I 100% believe that other agencies, as you've mentioned, have gone back and investigated. We know for a fact that Las Vegas Metro has gone back multiple times. Just imagine who else. I know for a fact they found footprints and some physical evidence of the entities in the backyard. So I would hope that we can find some of that. I don't know if we can, but I think this is something we need to revisit and attack again because there's so much here to unpack. And I'm going to send you these two videos that Scott sent me and have you look them over.
Okay, now before we wrap this up, two more things. Let me think how I want to say this. Okay, the blurry.
Yeah, the cloaking. Oh, you're cutting out again. There we go.
Angel said the area that he was observing this object got blurry. Now, that's interesting to me because people complain all the time. Oh, why are all these UFO videos so blurry? Or why is your Bigfoot picture so blurry? This is been going on forever with these blurry pictures. Why can't somebody get a good cell phone? Well, maybe if people would consider this, that there's something to do with either the technology that these beings have or something to do with the phenomenon, or I don't even really know the physics of all this or how this would all transpire, but there's something going on there at this time and space that's causing this blurriness to occur. It's not just because they've got bad video cameras and they can't take a clear picture. It's just the way these things work. There's a pattern of this blurriness thing happening. So you can't really, to me, you can't use that as a debunking to say, oh, it's blurry. So this obviously it doesn't count. You know what I'm saying?
100%. And Lou Elizondo, this was among the 5. In all, yep, that's right. Everything that they saw, they said that there were 5 similarities. And the cloaking was one of them. There was hypersonic velocities without signatures, low observability or cloaking, transmedium travel, sudden and instant acceleration, and anti-gravity lift. Every case that they looked at had this blurry or seemingly able to cloak themselves from view. And, it makes you wonder, this is makes radar operators and Navy fighter pilots pull their hair out, but other witnesses all corroborate the same stuff.
Yep. So we'll leave it on this note, and this is why I'm coming to Vegas. One of the reasons.
Well, that's going to be awesome.
One of the reasons, the first reason is to try to get further information that would be firsthand. Okay. The other reason would be that according to radar's report that I was given, that I can't substantiate or prove, but I trust my source greatly, that this object went in the direction of Lake Mead. Now, I'm going to speculate right now. I'm not stating this is what happened. I'm not stating what I believe this is what happened, although it wouldn't be surprising to me if what I'm about to say could have happened, is that this vehicle, this craft, could have possibly gone in a direction not too far from where it initially landed in these people's backyard to another location in Las Vegas, Nevada, not too far away, and either landed again or crashed or was taken down. Now, the reason why I speculate that this is a possibility is, again, this is hearsay witnesses, or some people that I've been able to contact are not saying that this is what happened, but they suspect, based on what they observed in their neighborhood happening after the event occurred at the house, that something else was going on. So when you and I get together, we're going to go out to that area and we're going to see if we could see anything or pick up on anything or see any evidence or anything that might have been left behind that would indicate that maybe something like, a crash retrieval or landing or something along that lines occurred. It's possible it didn't. It's possible this object just lifted off, went over the mountains, and that was the end of the story. But that's why I'm coming out there, because I want to see. I don't want to leave any stones unturned on this.
And I agree. There's, from what you told me before, there is corroborating evidence placing it in that direction. And yeah, man, we will get out there and we will leave no stone unturned. And what are your thoughts of a possible USO scenario here? Do you think that's possible, that it actually went into the lake?
That's a great question. That would be, sure, why not? I mean, who knows? I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, but again, I realize as we're talking about all this, and it's a very interesting story, obviously, that, we may not be able to prove any of this stuff. But when you've been following this topic, and these stories like this have been going on for so many years, I mean, I could not even stop to count how many times I've heard stories like this, that the patterns and the similarities line up with classic stories of the past that indicate that there's a possibility that some of what we're discussing actually happened the way we're describing it. But again, we may not be able to prove it, but we're going to try.
And I'd like to point out before we stop that the federal government has spent $22 million researching invisibility cloaks, UFOs, and the like. And that was through, of course, OSAP and ATIP, which, interestingly enough, have connections to Vegas. So what are your thoughts of this sighting being in the top 10 for the year?
Oh, yeah, well, geez. If an object lands and creatures get out and they're seen by more than one person, multiple people, I don't know how it could get. I mean, it can't get much better than that. So, I mean, like I said, I don't know, I might have said early on in our interview here that, I get goosebumps because I don't really want to get excited. To be quite frank, I don't really want to get excited about any of this anymore unless it's really, really strong or good evidence or what appears to be a very legitimate story. And right now, this has all the earmarks of all of that. So, I'm not going to get off my butt and drive 8 hours in 100 degrees, and go jump in a hotel for a couple nights and spend my own money. And I'm not writing a book. I don't have a YouTube channel. I'm not getting sponsors. Mm-hmm. No one's giving me any money. I mean, if somebody wanted to give me some money, I'd take it, but I'm not asking for anything. So no one can ever say, oh, you're just doing it for fame, or you're doing it for money, or no, and no, because I'm not. And they can't prove that I am, because I'm telling you right now, I just want to know, and I'm going to go try to find out. And I think I'm pretty good at it, and I know you are too, and that's why you and I are going to hook up, and we're going to see what we can do.
It's going to be great. We'll continue the study into this, and thanks so much for taking time out of your busy day, Erik. I look forward to talking to you soon.
Okay, buddy. Have a good day. We'll talk to you soon.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Erik, the Awakening Man, one of the most hardcore researchers I've had the blessing of coming across, and someone who I'm blessed to be able to research with. He's coming out here to Las Vegas. We are going in the direction of Lake Mead, and yeah, we're going to gas the boat up. We're going to get out there. We're going to scour the shorelines, and we are going to see if there is any evidence of some of the corroborating stories we've heard about the trajectory of this craft and a possible military presence in and around the lake. So I've probably said too much already. I hope Erik doesn't mind me saying that, but he is definitely a jewel and a gem when it comes to a friend and a researcher. Stay tuned for a possible part 2 of this episode, and until next time, keep your eyes to the skies, feet on the ground, but don't forget to take a look around. Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like it need Visine. Blast off, blast off, blast off, blast off. Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like it need Visine. Blast off, blast off.